And I welcome you today to CSC Talk Radio. It is my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be here with you. We're going to crank it up. We are going to crank it up. I want to ask you, while you were sleeping, you saw that movie, right? Did you see that movie? This woman made up a story about being this man's fiance after he was injured and knocked unconscious. He was in a coma. Of course, the lies started piling up. And things were going to get rough when he woke up. He didn't remember anything. Well, I'm not sure when we, the people, were knocked unconscious. But while we were sleeping, our liberties have been stolen, our government has gone mad with corruption, and Congress can't seem to do anything but grandstand and spend. Today we continue the circus of confirming a Supreme Court justice, a man very well qualified, but very hated by the left. They hated him before they even knew his name. A good man whom I believe to be completely innocent of all the wrongs he has been accused of in the last few weeks. I don't think he's an innocent person. None of us are. But why? Of course, yesterday, I explained that while we were watching the elephants and the donkeys at the circus, in front of the cameras, behind the scenes, they are still up to their old tricks of theft and corruption. They are completely mad with greed and power. It isn't the president that's doing this, it's, say it with me, Congress. DC occupiers occupying offices and cutting deals. And it's mostly the Democrats right now pushing the idiot policies. Yet, the Republicans act like little schoolboys who can't fight on the playground. Even though they have the bullies outnumbered, they can't fight. So what about you, America? Can you fight? Are you still asleep while the elected officials and their bureaucrats rape you of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, property, and prosperity? You know, it's really time that we woke up. It's really time that we started taking the responsibility for corrupt Congress. Today we have I kind of like the elephant and donkey show that's going on. I listened to part of it on my cell phone this morning when it went live. We're talking about the hearing for Kavanaugh over this crazy allegations that are coming out of the woodwork. None of them are substantiated, not a one of them. In fact, they keep getting disputed, but they keep hanging on to them as if they were truth. When does a lie become a lie and stay that way? Never, I guess, if you're trying to get rid of somebody, like in the Democrat Party right now. I watched it. When you watch these things, for those out there who don't have a computer or the cell phones, when you watch these things, immediately you see these little comments that are coming up, and you'll see hearts, and you'll see angry faces, and all kinds of bad language as people are making comments. I kind of wonder what those people do for a living. You know, I finally had to turn it off. It was too much noise, and I needed to practice to study up for the show. But I have an article here that's coming from Thomas Jipping, and he's part of the Daily Signal, which is part of the Heritage Foundation. He says, why the Kavanaugh process became a mad political circus. Well, the real answer is because they don't want him as a Supreme Court justice. When I say they, I mean the left, I mean the Democrats. They're going to defy everything that this president's doing. But it didn't start with this president. I want to point that out. He says to say that the Senate confirmation process for Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, I do like the name, Brett Kavanaugh, has turned into a circus of the elephants and the donkeys. And they've given the circus a bad name. Let's review, he says, some of the weird stuff that has happened. First, the Democrat senators demanded, now this is the Senate. I want you to remember that this is the Senate. The Senate, the senators, are now career politicians because Congress at one point in time, and I'm not sure how that all came to be, But we have this thing called the 17th Amendment. I believe it's the 17th. Where you don't have to necessarily, where senators were once upon a time appointed by your state legislators. But then they came up with this idea that they could be elected, just like the representatives. They could be elected. And when that happened, somebody that lives in Arkansas can move to New York and spend enough money and become president or become senator. And it happens in other states too. So your representation now is with the senators. They're career politicians. So they're not watching out for you. They could care less about you. Of course, unless they're getting earmarks. Okay, carrying on. The Democrat senators demanded that the Judiciary Committee hearing be postponed because they had so much material they couldn't read it in time. Well, that was a big farce. That was crazy. One senator's "I am Spartacus" moment was releasing confidential documents that fizzled out really quickly because it had already been released the day before. And I don't believe he even understands Spartacus. Spartacus, when the "I am Spartacus" comment is because Spartacus was a slave who escaped, and they were after him. He was trying to free people. And when they came after him, they didn't know which one was Spartacus. So all the others stood up and said, "I am Spartacus." "No, I'm Spartacus." They did that on Zorro one time. I don't know if you saw Zorro. "I am Zorro. I am Spartacus." I don't believe anybody's going to stand up and say, "I am Cory Booker," and take anything to save his hide. Okay, moving on to the article. They also had the yelling and the screaming protesters that had to be hauled out of the confirmation hearing. We found out that they were paid for. Yes, it's a donkey and elephant show. Senators said the previous judicial record of Democratic nominees was more important than the hearing itself, but ignored Kavanaugh's even larger previous judiciary record. They've had more information on this man than they've had with any other Supreme Court justice. Senators accused Kavanaugh of believing that President Donald Trump cannot be investigated or prosecuted. But apparently they have not read their Constitution, and this man has. He had actually only suggested that Congress consider legislation to delay the investigation or prosecution of the president until he is out of office. Now remember, you can impeach him. We impeached Clinton, but he stayed in office. Senators who said that the American Bar Association rating is the gold standard of evaluating judicial nominees ignored its unanimous, well-qualified rating for Kavanaugh. They came out and said, "We love Kavanaugh." They didn't say love, but they put their golden stamp upon him, but the Democrats didn't like that, the Democrat senators. Then we have Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. She says Kavanaugh does not deserve the presumption of innocence because of the way he approaches his cases. And he alleged views on women's reproductive choice. Always goes back to abortion, which I have a little to say about. I have some good stuff today. Stay with me. The number to call is 877-895-5410. That's 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.